Hello, this is the March 2026 podcast, where I hope to show why intelligence is non-computable. This is actually a quote from Roger Penrose, who insists AI is a misnomer, as there cannot be artificial intelligence, only processing power with limited application. Notwithstanding this, the Turing test was devised to demonstrate the equivalence of man and machine. In 1950, Turing published a provocative paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, about the possibility of intelligent machines. Turing's proposal was based on a popular entertainment called the imitation game. In the original game, a man and a woman are hidden from view. A third person, the interrogator, relays questions to one of them at a time, and by reading the answers attempts to demonstrate which is the man and which the woman. The twist is that the man has to try to deceive the interrogator while the woman tries to assist him, making replies from either side suspect. A description of the Turing test is in the book The Myth of Artificial Intelligence, subtitle Why Computers Can't Think the Way We Do, by Erik Larson. Quoting from this quote, Turing replaced the man and woman with a computer and a human. A computer and a human receive typed questions from a human judge, and if the judge cannot accurately identify which is the computer wins. Turing argued that with such an outcome, we have no good reason to define the machine as unintelligent, regardless of whether it is human or not. So the question is whether the machine has ever passed this test. In June 2014, a computer program named Eugene Gustman, which simulated a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy, was reported to have passed the Turing test by 33%. In early 2025, researchers found that the AI model GPT 4.5 convincingly passed a full Turing test, fooling judges 73% of the time. This marked a significant advancement in AI capabilities. But I believe the only conclusion that can be drawn is that programming computers to imitate human responses has advanced. It does not necessarily mean that computers are intelligent. One way of demonstrating the limitations of AI and its complete lack of general intelligence is to ask it to solve problems which it has not been programmed to solve, even if it is a similar type of problem. One example is the problem of the man, the fox, chicken, and grain crossing a river in a boat that can only carry two of them. If the fox is left alone with the chicken, it will eat the chicken, and if the chicken is left alone with the grain, it will eat the grain. A computer can be programmed to solve this, but if the elements of the problem change to include, for example, a woman, a dog, a rabbit, and a lettuce, the computer has no realistic solution. It cannot extrapolate from one to the other. Quote, even worse, researchers have realized that giving a machine learning system a bias to learn a particular application or task means it will do more poorly on other tasks. There is an inverse correlation between a machine's success in learning some one thing and its success in learning some other thing. Even seemingly similar tasks are inversely related in terms of performance. A computer system that learns to play championship-level Go won't also learn to play championship-level chess. The Go system has been specifically designed with a particular bias towards learning the rules of Go. Its learning curve, as they call it, thus follows the known scoring of that particular game. Its learning curve regarding some other game, say Jeopardy or chess, is useless, in fact, non-existent, close quote. That is from Erik Larson's book. An essential part of human intelligence is being able to extrapolate and apply not just logical reasoning to a variety of problems, but to engage the imagination, which is essentially being able to think of things that are not present. A computer only has access to its code. This in itself can provide the computing power of DeepMind's AlphaFold software to solve the structure of all proteins in a short time period. Normally, a PhD student would take 3 years to analyze one protein. So certain tasks lend themselves to machines. That is when no understanding is required and the process lends itself to automation. The second, more logical difficulty is Gödel's incompleteness theorems. Quote, "The concept of AI, though the term remained to be coined, hovered above the question, is the mind's intuition, its ability to grasp truth and meaning, reducible to a machine and computations?" This was Gödel's question. In answering it, he ran into a snag that would soon make him world famous. In 1931, Godel published 2 theorems of mathematical logic known as his incompleteness theorems. In them, he demonstrated the inherent limitations of all formal mathematical systems. It was a brilliant stroke. Godel showed unmistakably that mathematics, all of mathematics, with certain straightforward assumptions, is, strictly speaking, not mechanical or formalizable. More specifically, Godel proved that there must exist some statements in any formal, mathematical or computational system that are true with a capital T, yet not provable in the system itself using any of its rules. The true statement can be recognized by a human mind, but is provably not provable by the system it's formulated in. Close quote. There is another facet to mathematical reasoning which again involves the imagination and how mathematical truths are recognized. Roger Penrose chose to illustrate his point in his book, The Road to Reality, by reference to the Mandelbrot set. Quote, "Not even Benoit Mandelbrot himself, when he first caught sight of the irreducible complications in the fine details of the set, had any real preconception of the set's extraordinary richness. The Mandelbrot set was certainly no invention of any human mind. The set is just objectively there in the mathematics itself. If it has meaning to assign an actual existence to the Mandelbrot set, then that existence is not within our minds, for no one can fully comprehend the set's endless variety and unlimited complication. Nor can its existence lie within the multitude of computer printouts that begin to capture some of its incredible sophistication and detail. For at best those printouts capture but a shadow of an approximation to the set itself. Yet it has a robustness that is beyond any doubt, for the same structure is revealed in all its perceivable details to greater and greater fineness the more closely it is examined, independently of the mathematician or computer that examines it. Its existence can only be within the Platonic world of mathematical forms." Close quote. What this reveals is that whereas the AI enthusiasts are probably all materialists of one sort or another, Penrose is a Platonist. He believes in a Platonic realm of ideas, namely unchanging entities, which are absolutely true, which can be apprehended by the human mind. In Plato's dialogue, the Meno, Socrates famously demonstrates how an uneducated slave boy knows geometric truths. When Socrates draws the square in the sand with a diagonal across it, the boy recognizes that even though the 2 triangles are not exactly equal in this particular drawing, that in principle the 2 are equal. That the question Socrates poses does not relate to the sensible shapes in the sand, but to the universal mathematical concepts of square and triangle. The boy goes on to uncover Pythagoras' theorem. Plato's view is that this is an example of knowledge, which he defines in the Theaetetus as recollection of the intelligible world of forms or essences, and these are innate. I don't believe this ability to tune into universals can be replicated by a machine. I think it would be worthwhile to cover the philosophical schisms and reductionisms which underlie this debate. I think it was Gilbert Ryle who first coined the phrase "the ghost in the machine" in his book The Concept of Mind. He argued that one could understand another human being from their behaviour alone, and there was no reason to hypothesize that the person had any internal dialogue going on at all. He was attempting to refute a Cartesian dualism which troubled philosophers for centuries, as they could find no plausible way of combining the material world and the world of consciousness, and this is referred to as the hard problem of consciousness. Ryle attempted to solve the problem with a form of analytical behaviorism. His contemporary Wittgenstein took a different approach, claiming the world was not a totality of things, but of facts. This paved the way for information theory and the view championed by John Wheeler that it is derived from bit, that is, that information is primary and things or objects are derivative. There is a paper by Julian Barber that challenges this, and I'll get back to that shortly. But first, it has to be noted that this schism is just a modern reformulation of the centuries-old false dichotomies between materialism versus idealism in one corner and empiricism versus rationalism in the other. It may surprise you to find that all those schools of thought, despite having radically different starting points, all result in the unreality of the external world. The empiricists believe all knowledge was derived from experience or sense impressions, and David Hume was surprised to conclude, in his treatise on human nature, that this meant there could be no proof of an external world. So what started out as a common sense approach and a departure from elaborate metaphysical systems such as Kant's critique of pure reason ended up with Bishop Berkeley's view that existence is perception. Meanwhile, the rationalists broadly held that the external world was all appearance and therefore was not real. Only unchanging essences were real. So both schools end up with a form of idealism, and this suggests a false dichotomy. To return to the modern version of this dichotomy, Barber argues, quote, "Consideration of everything involved in the deduction process, in which the nature of explanation plays an important role, makes me question Wheeler's contention that every it derives its very existence from bits. I find no reason to reverse the standard assumption of physics, namely, that what we experience can be explained by the assumption of an external world governed by law. On this basis, Wheeler's aphorism should be reversed. Bit derives from it." Unquote. And, quote, "Reality creates information and is separate from it. Once this has been recognized, we can see that for all its importance, information theory can in no way change what has always been the starting point of science. That structured things exist, in the first place in our mind and, as a reasonable conjecture given the remarkable correlations in our mental experiences, in an external world. Moreover, the proper task of ontology is to establish the structure of things." Wheeler's thesis mistakes abstraction for reality. Try eating a 1 that stands for an apple. A bit is merely part of the huge, interconnected, phenomenological world that we call the universe and interpret by science. It has no meaning separated from that complex. Just because the overall conditions of the universe enable us to observe them in carefully prepared experiments, dots on screens are no proof that at root the world consists of immaterial single-digit information. For we have no evidence that the dots could exist in the absence of the world and its special properties. This conclusion in no way settles whether nature is analog or digital. That would at least require us to know if the its are continuous or discrete. However, I do think that my arguments undermine some of the more extreme forms of digitalism. Abstractions creates the impression that the world is made of qubits, but humans make qubits just as they make coins." Close quote. The human brain has taken billions of years to evolve and is composed of 86 billion neurons and 100 trillion synapses. A large-scale AI model can have 1 to 10 trillion parameters, which are supposed to be somehow equivalent. A modern man may take 20 years to develop true intelligence across a range of social, emotional, physical, and intellectual realms. A computer with bits or parameters is unlikely to compete with that. Also, the distinguishing feature of the human mind is is its ability to understand, self-reflect, know what it knows and that it knows, and imagine what does not yet exist or what is not immediately present. A computer has its code and its electricity supply. A man is plugged or integrated into the entire universe. As to an equivalent intelligence for machines, I believe this is a materialist, reductionist fantasy. Please check out the website at quantumid.science for monthly newsletters and the e-book store, which should be up and running later this month. April's podcast is entitled The Higgs Boson, a God particle or just a blip on a screen, and I hope you can join me then.